8 in 10 Americans vastly underestimate the cost for long-term care. What? This is an article the EBRI linked to, Employee Benefits Research Institute, from Money Magazine, and I could not believe how bad this article was, how EBRI should be embarrassed to link to this article. It's embarrassing, and how badly written and researched this was. All right, so what was this article? Well, according to Money Magazine, someone did a study, a survey of 2,500 Americans between the age of 20 and 74. But not Americans in total. It's 2,500 people who are providers for long-term care services, all right? So a very specific group of people who provide for long-term care services. 2,500 were interviewed, all right? Of those 2,500, they say, what do you think the average cost is for a year of long-term care? Of those 2,500 people, they said, I can't remember exactly, 50,000 a year or something like that, right? But no, that's not correct, says this Money Magazine thing. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the average cost for long-term care is $111,000. All right, so the headline again is 8 in 10 Americans vastly underestimate how much it costs for long-term care. Well, first of all, it's not 8 in 10 Americans, it's 8 in 10 providers of healthcare or long-term care services, all right? So it's a very subset of the population as a whole, people who are actually in the game, people you think would know better. Now let's go back to the $111,000 a year. What's that? Oh, that's specific to people who are in a nursing home full-time with a room in a nursing home, a private room in a nursing home full-time. All right. So that's a very subset of the overall people who need long-term care. I know this is crazy. I know Money Magazine and nay, oh nay, horsies. I know this is hey, what's up, guys? I know this is crazy, but Money Magazine, you can have long-term care and actually not being in a nursing home. Do you know that? Nay, do you know that? In fact, in that same Money Magazine article, hey guys, they look at these guys. I freaking love horses. Can you all see them? Where are they? Where are they? Where do those horses go? Hey, leave those horses alone. I can't make it bigger. Oh, dagnabbit. Anyway, in that same Money Magazine article, they say the majority of people with long-term care needs don't pay anything for it. Why don't they pay anything for it? Because they're getting it for free from a loved one. Your daughter, a family member, a cousin, or something like that. Interesting. So the HHA study is explicitly saying if you need a full-time private room in a full-time nursing home facility, that's your average cost, $111,000 a year. That's not the average cost of long-term care, though. If you take the people who are using a long-term care provider and you average in with the people who don't pay anything, i.e. your daughter, remember, what's long-term care? You need help with 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. Activities of daily living are things like transferring, bathing, I can't remember the other 6, toileting, those kind of things. I'm not sure bathing and toileting are the same thing. I can't, but 6 activities of daily living, you can look it up. If you need help with 2 of those, you are now needing long-term care, all right? Many, the majority of people have long-term care without paying for it. That is not part of the $111,000 average daily year for long-term care. So why do they do this? Why do they keep doing this? Especially when they're dealing with actual providers for long-term care. These are the people who said, hey, I'm in long-term care. I provide this. This is what I think is the average amount of money people spend on long-term care, $50,000. No, that's wrong, you healthcare providers. It's $111,000. Yeah, but you're measuring a different number than what we are, because you're measuring everyone who actually pays for it for a full year. Interesting. So what's the average time you need long-term care for? And that's where it gets different as well. Some people need it for 10 months. Some people need it for 24 months. A lot of people don't need it at all. Very interesting. So it's just the whole thing is stupid. The headline and the article are different than what the thing says. And I don't know if this makes any sense or not, but I'm trying to make this point clear. Just because you need long-term care doesn't mean you're going to have a big expenditure on long-term care. It depends on what type of long-term care. Is your daughter wiping your butt and changing your diapers? or you're going to a facility, all right? It depends on how long you're going to be in a long-term care facility in a private room or even a shared room. Are you going to be there for 5 years? Probably not. What's the average? So what you really want to do when you're examining this is saying, what is the likelihood I need to be placed in a long-term care facility? Let's just say it's 15%. How much is that long-term care facility on average? $111,000. All right, so that means 85% do not need to be placed in a long-term care facility. All right, 15% do. So what's the likelihood you're going to spend a lot of money on long-term care? You take the 0.15 and you times it by $111,000. That's what, $20,000. That's the likelihood that you are going to go into a long-term care facility and spend for the amount you're going to spend, $20,000. Because only 15% of the population does. And I don't know the exact amount, but it's roughly that. All right, and then you say, okay, how long of the people who have that expenditure, the $111,000, who are full-time in a long-term care facility, how long is the average person in there? 18 months. All right, so we say $111,000 times 1.5. That's about $55,000. That's going to cost us about $165,000. So 15% of the population, the number of people who actually need a full-time long-term care facility, will spend on average 18 months in there. 18 months at $111,000 a year. That's $165,000. All right. So 0.15 times $165,000. I don't know what that is. That's probably 15% of 100,000 is 15,000. 15% of 50,000 is 7,500. So that's going to be what, $25,000 or something like that, $30,000. So the average stay and the average cost for someone is about $30,000 or something like that. You'd have to do the numbers on your own. Is that going to make or break you? No, come on. So how are these people then using the survey of actual care providers to say they're way off? They're just not way off. The survey, the article, the financial journalist is way off because financial journalism is done by maroons. That's all there is to it. And you should always remember that. Don't listen to these people. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts. Smash that like button. We got a guy going to Georgia Southern, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, and Case Western Wrestling. This guy's going to wrestle at Case Western. All right, so we got two Indians here. It looks like one's going to Texas A&M, the other Indian's going to Georgia Tech. I'm not sure what kind. There's got to be a white guy going to Georgia Southern, and another white guy going to Case Western. Interesting. All right. Anyway, so there you have it. That's that neighborhood right there. See, here in Georgia, we put up these signs like when you're graduating, where you're going. Every neighborhood has that. We never did that when I lived in Virginia, that I recall. Never did that when I lived in. Did we do it in Texas? I don't remember seeing that in Texas either. Never did that in New Jersey. And I never saw it in Phoenix either. So it's interesting. The South is a different bird, man. It's very interesting how the South has their own little traditions. That's pretty cool. All right, God bless.